Hi, I'm Roxy. I recently got a copy of Rebelle7Pro, and it's got this new fancy metallic sheen that you can apply to the oil brushes. And you know what? I like shiny things. So even though oil brushes are not my typical medium, I fiddled around with them so much that I ended up with a brush pack. So I'm giving this brush pack away for free for 1 week from today. Thereafter, you can grab it for a few dollars. I'll start off with some download and installation instructions, and then we can get into the demo. So you can grab the brush pack from either Gumroad or Cube Brush. If you're looking at this before the 27th of January, then it's still free. So you can just put a 0 or another number if you're feeling generous and click to get it and download the zip. You'll need to unzip the file somewhere on your computer and you'll end up with a folder called Roxy's Oil Brushes. And within that folder, you'll have some text instructions and a preview file and a subfolder called Oils and Acrylics. And inside here are the actual brush presets. So once you have them ready, open Rebelle, head on over to the Oils and Acrylics category. Click on the hamburger menu, click Add Group. This is going to add a little section called My Brushes. Double click on there, and I suggest naming it to Roxy so that you can differentiate between My Brushes. If you can hear the shouting in the background, that's just my husband killing zombies in a state of decay. But moving on. So just name it Roxy or something like that so that it's separated from brushes you make or from other people that you download. Once you have this folder, you click on it, make sure that the writing is blue. That means it's the one that's selected. Open the hamburger menu again. This time click Import Brush Preset. It's going to take you to the default place where the Rebelle 7 brushes are stored. But you're going to want to navigate to where you unzip that file. And in that Oils and Acrylics folder, you want to just select all of these and click Open. And they're going to open over here in alphabetical order probably. Mine are actually in the order that I created them, so it's a little different. But in total, you should have 15 files, so they're all there. Now, I only used these brushes to create this painting, which is very loosely based on this guy who I photographed in my garden. But of course, I lifted his tail up and changed the colors because I can. And I don't have to explain my art to you. But the point is, I painted him with these brushes. So I'm going to take you through a demo of each of these quick. So let's start with the first one. Roxy Flat is a simple square brush. Oh, I should mention, if you head on over to the layers palette, if you're using Rebelle 7, if you toggle on this little diamond, that is what gives us the metallic sheen. So it's quite a simple brush, and most of my brushes, I've set them on paint and blend by default. So what that means is if you press lightly, you're going to be blending what's on the canvas, and if you press a little firmer, that's when you're going to start putting down some color. Quick mini tutorial if you're brand new to Rebelle. If these brushes seem a little too blendy for you, you can toggle on paint instead of the paint and blend, and then there's not going to be any blending, it's just going to be painting. If they're not blendy enough, then you're going to want to adjust the pressure sensitivity. But what I'll do is I will link to a video from Tablet Pro. Justice does a fantastic video that shows you how to adjust your pressure sensitivity on several levels. So it's really worth the effort because, you know, you don't want to be fighting with your brush. You just want to focus on your painting. So the next brush is called Gold Leaf. Let me actually pick a goldish color. So I tried to make this look like actual gold leaf, and I think it turned out quite nice. Next one is Roxy Bristles. Excuse me. So Roxy Bristles it's a bristly brush, and you can see I've used a bit of bristles here and there on the bird, so it gives you that kind of a look. Roxy Silk is also a bristly brush. The bristles are slightly fatter and more spread apart than the bristle brush. And if you know my Corel Painter brush packs, you'll be familiar with this dab, because that's the exact dab I used for the Silk collection. So this next one is called Roxy Old Paint, and it kind of reminded me of when you've got a tin of old wall paint, you know, your typical acrylic wall paint, and it's gone a bit old and you're too cheap to go and buy new paint, so you just ruin your walls with it. Yeah, that's the kind of look it reminded me of, because it kind of leaves a little bit of a grit behind. And we've got Roxy Half Wet, and well, I named it that because it looks half wet. It looks like when your painting starts to dry and the thinner parts have gone dry and the thicker parts are still wet. So it's got that look to it. Acrylic is a fairly simple, slightly bristly brush. It's not as oily looking as the other brushes, which is why it reminded me of acrylic. Then we've got a brush that I call Dragon Tail. I actually think this would maybe make a really cool watercolor brush. Note to self, make a watercolor pack. So this next one I call Zen, because it reminds me of raking in a Zen garden. You can just really zone out with this brush. Really nice for backgrounds as well. You can see where I've used it in places around the edges. And then this angular brush. I mean, you can paint normally with it, of course. But I kind of like to spaz out with it a little bit. And it creates these angular brush strokes, which I like. In the carver brush, I have this by default set to erase, and kind of like it for carving into paint. So you can see where I've used it in places, just ripped into the paint, and it eats it up nicely. Then I've got Roxy Halftone, and this by default I've set it to paint and blend, so whatever you move it over, it's going to blend it all into a halftone pattern, which you can see if I zoom in there. Really attractive. And you can also just set it to paint, obviously, or paint and blend, so you're not just blending with it. It's really fun to play with. Then we've got Roxy Palette Knife, and this lays down paint in a very sharp, loaded way, like you'd see with a palette knife. And then the second last one is I've got Roxy Clumpy Roller. And this is like when you load paint unevenly onto a paint roller. And let me just get a bit of color here so we can see what we're doing. Nice and bright. So you can see it's got that uneven, distinct pattern to it. And lastly, when you feel like you want to get your Jackson Pollock on, I've got this splat brush. So that about wraps it up. Download links are in the description, and my patrons can also find it in their Dropbox treasure trove. Add me on social media if you make anything cool with the brushes so I can like it. And thank you for watching. Much obliged if you leave a like and subscribe. Until the next one, God bless.